Nine kings, nine rings, nine cursed souls. The Nazgul are some of Tolkien's most haunting creatures. But did you know they may be inspired by real legends of cursed soldiers and Anglo Saxon spells? So, who exactly were the Nazgul? The Nazgul, or ring wraiths, or better known as the Yulari of Kenya, were nine men gifted nine separate rings by Sauron. Now, the one thing these men wanted more than anything else was power, and these rings gifted to them by Sauron granted them such power. But over the centuries, the rings enslaved them and bound them to Sauron's will, eventually draining them of their humanity and making them invisible to the world. And their fate echoes real world legends of men doomed by power, cursed to wander the world forever. So let's explore some historical and mythological connections to these ring wraiths. First, the Dragor, or restless spirits of the dead in Norse mythology. Now, in the Fornaldasagar, there are myths of the Dragor, or undead warrior spirits who haunt burial mounds. Like the Nazgul, they terrorize the living and are often described as shadowy figures, bound to cursed treasures or even powerful magic. For example, in the Greta saga, the warrior Glamour is cursed after his death, body rising like a powerful wraith-like creature. And much like the Nazgul, he is pretty much invincible and there were no earthly weapons that could harm him. Then there are the revenants of medieval folklore. Now, in early Anglo-Saxon folklore in medieval Europe, these revenants were actually warriors who were cursed after death and could no longer find peace and forced to wander the earth. Whatever sins these nobles or warriors committed is the reason why they could not find any peace. And can you imagine what they were doing at that time? For example, the Petersburg Chronicle of the 12th century. This tells of a noble who was so wicked that after he died, he rose from the dead and would terrorize the living, forced to walk the earth for all of eternity. Some Anglo-Saxon cultures, there was a belief of this thing called wyrd, WYRD, or fate. And it is something that's believed to bind kings and warriors. Those who defied fate or made pacts and deals with dark forces were then bound to this fate and become cursed, very similar to the Nazgul in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And just about everybody has had to read Beowulf at some point in school, and this is another example of that with King Hermod, I believe that's his name, who made a deal with Grendel's mother, a dark force, and was bound to that fate. Now, you know, Tolkien was a professor at Oxford University and was very familiar with Anglo Saxon spells. So, which spells were placed in Lord of the Rings and were they actually real? The Loch Naga, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, was an Anglo Saxon spell book of healing and protection charms. As a lot of them were meant to ward off supernatural afflictions, it is quite possible that Tolkien did get some inspiration from this spell book. But could that medieval magic protect against the Nazgul? In the next video, I'll talk about how the Loch Naga compares to some Middle Earth spells. Follow me for more medieval magic in Lord of the Rings and also magic in literature.